Welcome to Chris and Jen in the Morning.
Where it's always morning somewhere. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen. We're so excited to have you with us today. Today, we are going to talk about creative ruts and how to break them. Super exciting. Of course, we will combine our self-care kind of philosophical thoughts along with some neuroscience, because who doesn't love that? We'll talk about what happens when you get stuck in a creative rut, how to, what are some things you can do to get yourself out of them? I feel like everybody can probably relate to this in some way or another, whether you indulge your creative side or whether you don't. We all have to creatively problem solve points in our life. I'm super excited to talk about that. Before we get on with that, let's just pause and do our gratitude moment. Shall we?
Do it.
Let's do it. So I'll start. This morning, I was really thinking, as I was thinking through just how many things I have to be grateful for. I have been away for a couple of days and I got back last night. And this morning, I had just a fantastic cup of coffee. And, I am a total coffee snob. I like to drink my coffee hot and black in the morning. I like to just have that one warm beverage, nice strong cup of coffee. And because I think really good coffee doesn't need to have anything added to it in order to taste delicious, I really enjoy just a really good bougie cup of coffee. And I have this amazing husband and partner who doesn't drink coffee, but has learned how to make the best cup of coffee, how to source the best beans, and also what my taste profile is, what I prefer and what I don't prefer. In fact, when people ask me about what kind of coffee I like and don't like, I just look at him like, can you help? I don't know. But
Can you answer
do.
this for me?
So this morning, I just had a delightful, well-balanced cup of coffee that just, you take a drink and it brings a smile to your face, and you sort of can easily take that for granted. But, being away from it for a few days, nothing wrong with Folgers, but I am reminded how delicious, the coffee that he makes is. So
Yeah.
super
Well, and
grateful
welcome
that I
back.
get to wake up that way. Yeah, thank you.
So my gratitude moment this week is I've found myself going to this TV show that just kind of is an easy watch, easy laughs, and so that's what I'm grateful for. So it's the show called Bob's Burgers. It's definitely adult humor, but it's a cartoon, and I don't know, just to me, it's easy to put on. It always gets me in a happy mindset. It's easy watching. It's nothing too deep. It's definitely a family unit that, has dysfunction, but they still love each other and always show up for one another. It's just one of those things that I think the writing of it is so clever. They add components of music to all the episodes. It's just, there's so many different things that just bring me joy in it. Very creative people who work on it, because much goes into making animated shows, the writing, let alone the animation. And they, like I said, have a music component to it. So there's just so much that goes into it, and I really, really enjoy it and appreciate their creativity.
I love that. I've never seen that show, but I do love a good show to just kind of indulge in, and kind of take a break from whatever is going on and just kind of be entertained. And so I love that.
Which
I
brings
love it.
us to a great segue to our conversation around creative ruts, because I'm sure some of these creative minded people have found themselves in that space and have to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does it mean to be in a creative rut?
Whenever I think of a creative rut, I'm thinking I'm feeling stuck. I'm not really sure. I'm struggling to find a way to move forward. Whether that's generating a new and creative idea, whether it's trying to solve a problem and not feeling like I'm really getting to a solution that truly is a solution, or maybe just feels like a band-aid. So to me, a creative rut is whenever I'm stuck in that space of trying to how to move forward, how to
Like you're
truly
thinking
solve
in
it.
circles.
Yeah,
Can't think of
exactly.
you're thinking very much inside the box you've drawn.
Right.
Or yeah, for everything that you're thinking of. Sometimes I think for me, if I tend to be an optimist, of course, I don't tend to be, I am an optimist. I tend to think about how things can be possible instead of how things cannot be possible. Sometimes when I'm problem solving and I notice that I'm in a bit of a creative rut on the problem solving, it's like I'm thinking about all the things that won't work instead of thinking about the things that could work, or I'm thinking in circles, or I just am not inspired by any of the ideas that I'm thinking of. Nothing quite feels right, but I can't put my finger on it. It's like
Yeah.
just this like blockade of a path, or I keep going around in circles and finding myself at the same tree over and over
Yeah.
and over again,
Yeah.
lost in the woods, that sort of thing.
And like it can be with anything where like I mean I think people think of creative thinking or creativity possibly as like, being an artist, painting a picture or sculpting a piece of something, but really it can be though trying to solve a problem, trying to think of how to solve a challenge in a unique and different way. Like it doesn't necessarily have to deal with like a tangible creative thing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the way that I like the first signal that I start to notice myself, which is probably not the first one that other people watching me could notice, but the first signal that I start to notice within me to kind of cue myself in that I might be like hitting a little bit of a wall or in a rut and I need to take a pause is like I notice that I'm getting really frustrated, or I'm not finding joy in what I'm doing anymore, or sometimes it's not one of those negative emotions, but it's more like I can't stay focused. Like I'm losing I'm just getting too distracted by too many other things
Yeah.
going on, or but like it's like I think when I'm in that creative space where I'm doing something, things feel like they're flowing pretty easily. I'm like enjoying what I'm doing, whether
Yeah.
I'm like solving a problem or we're putting a website together, or, I'm knitting my pot holder scarf thing. uh, or I'm painting something. I'm generally enjoying what it is that I'm doing. I'll notice that I'm feeling either distracted or frustrated, or it's becoming difficult to
Mm.
stay in the enjoyment of what I'm
Yeah.
doing. For me, I think that's the where I've started to clue in that maybe I need to change it up or take a break or walk away. What about for you?
I feel if I identify that I am stuck in a rut whenever I feel like I just keep going the same path.
Mm.
It's not really a feeling or it doesn't like evoke an emotion out of me. I start thinking about it. I just find myself like going down that same road. I'm fairly easily able to say, okay, well, I need to put this aside for now to until I can get to a space where I can really think about it. I will say I'm the type of person who I do better when I have a physical, tangible thing, either trying to like draw something out or create columns or something to help me sort through my thoughts to then kind of free up my mind to start journeying in different directions.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely enjoy seeing order made out of chaos. And I often think about it's so interesting. I often think about creativity as kind of chaotic. Do you think about it that way?
I no, I don't, but I'm interested to hear why you think about it in that way.
I don't know. I'm not saying that it definitely is. I guess I didn't realize until we started talking about this that I feel like creativity is oftentimes what I consider the opposite of order. Like when you want to put things exactly where they're supposed to go and be like a very processed and very like buttoned down. Though I do think that that's a form of like that is a part of creativity. That's a part,
Yeah.
it's not like I think that something that looks orderly and symmetrical is not creative, but I don't know why. I don't know why I think that.
Well,
Really
and part of me
interesting.
wonders if it could be because there's also a difference between like a lack of ideas or a rut versus like having too many jumbled ideas, like not having
Mhm.
enough organization or not being able to see what's that saying, like the tree through the forest. Like there's just so much that you have to organize. As we were getting ready for this conversation, I found this article on Artists Network, which
Uh-huh.
seemed like a really great website if you're an artist and just looking for like other flashes of inspiration. But one of the artists out there, there's an article out there, 6 ways out of a creative rut. And they've spoken to a lot of different artists. And one of the artists makes it very clear like, they don't feel like they hit a creative rut. His name's James Gurney. He doesn't feel like he hits a creative rut. He feels like his problem is he's always changing his focus. So
Mm.
like he does landscapes, he does portraits, he does like creative abstract things. And so he almost feels like his issue is like taking those like all those different ideas and trying to like sort them out and start tackling them. So I do think like there's a difference between like a creative route versus like so many ideas. How do I organize and
Getting
keep the
distracted.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder
I
if like that's maybe possibly like where it kind of starts to feel chaotic for you.
um n- I I don't know why it is that I associate that. I don't know that creativity necessarily feels chaotic to me, but like I just realized that I associate creativity with like less structure. So when you said, like I like to take a break and make like a pro con list, that doesn't feel like a creative activity to me to make a pro and con list. That feels like a organizing, creating order, putting things in a place that you think they're supposed to go. And so I just am kind of wondering why it is that I think that way. I'm going to have to take some time and reflect over
Have
that.
to noodle on it a little bit.
I'm going to have to noodle on it. So I love that you're reading this article. What other things were you taking away?
I think again, there's like a lot that goes into creative ruts. Like everyone's may look and feel a little bit differently, like just how we kind of defined,
Yeah.
what how we see it and how we experience it. A lot of people also feel and experience it in different ways and also like come to the place of a creative rut from different avenues. So whether it's this idea of like burnout, like I've just been doing the same thing over and over again and I just can't do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exhaustion, right? You're so tired, you have to take that break. It feels like your creativity has stalled because you just don't have like that mental capacity anymore. Or if your creativity comes from like an emotional place, maybe you're a little emotionally constipated and you're not able to quite break through that.
You know that I love some good like neuroscience and bringing neuroscience into the conversation.
Yeah.
And you also know that one of my favorites, like inspirations behind that, is the work of Dr. David Rock at the Neuroleadership Institute. And one of the things that he talks about that I think we've probably talked about before is brain capacity and how you need capacity in like space, white space in your brain in
Yeah.
order to think creatively. And that's why people often do their best creative work, whether it's thinking outside the box or whether it's, like what we think about when we typically say creative, like in the morning or, where people say, oh, I do my best thinking in the shower or you feel like you're most able to solve a problem or, those kinds of things. It doesn't usually come at the end of a very like long, full, heavy day of,
Right.
thinking because your brain's just tired and you don't have any capacity left because your brain's been very busy. In fact, just a couple of fun facts for you. Did you know that the brain can form over 2,000 different thoughts an hour?
Jeez. I did
There's
not
only
know
like
that.
60 minutes in an hour. Like, how many thoughts is that per minute? A lot.
Now is that
Um,
like conscious thoughts or that's like even the subconscious
that
like
just
processing?
Right. That's just like all the little thoughts that your brain can, like I'm having multiple thoughts happen right now. You could probably see it in my eyes. Your brain can form over 2,000 different thoughts an hour. That's up to 50,000 thoughts a day. So by the end of the day, your brain's got a lot going
Yeah.
on. In fact, some people say that's like dreaming is sort of processing through all of those thoughts that have
Yeah.
been subconsciously just
Would make
hanging
sense.
out in the head. You gotta have a place for them. You gotta put them where they need to go, and
Yeah.
that's part of what dreaming does. Um, the speed of neurons in your brain, firing in your brain, is 270 miles per hour. That's the speed of neurons sending information inside your brain. A Formula One race car max speed is 248 miles per hour. Those neurons are moving, sending information faster than race cars. what are some of the ways that you can break a creative rut? One of the things that you might consider is, am I just thinking too hard on this? Do I need to create some white space, some
Yeah.
capacity in my brain? One of the other things that I notice is the more frustrated I get or fixated I get on something, the more that I will hold my breath.
Oh, interesting.
Whenever you concentrate, I don't know if you do this. Whenever I'm really concentrating, I'm not respirating at the same pace. It's kind of holding my breath and thinking because I guess I'm using so much of my subconscious brain power toward thinking that I'm not using it to take as many breaths. But you're actually depriving your brain of oxygen. And when you are deprived of oxygen, you can't think as well.
Right.
So that's why I have always told my team and people around me whenever you're feeling stuck or frustrated or like starting to get escalated in emotion, the best thing you can do is pause and take 3 really deep breaths because you're just returning oxygen to the brain so that you
Yeah.
have gas to be able to, to power your thinking.
Yeah.
Um, I fully believe in that, and it's always worked. Just some interesting things. So, what are some of the potential before we, go off into the ways to solve it? What are some of the potential causes aside from just having your brain being too full? What are some of the potential causes of
Well,
of being
I
in a
think
rut?
another thing is like you're aiming for perfection. Whatever you're producing,
Me?
whatever you're working on, like you want it to be perfect. And that doesn't allow if you're so focused on doing it perfectly, you're not really your mind isn't really in a place to have that creative problem solving, that white space like you're talking about, because
Yeah,
it's focusing on trying to reach perfection. Which I thought was an interesting perspective because, like, I know anything that I work on, like, of course, I want it to look good, sound good, like all of the things. But it's like just having that opportunity to like take a step back and really be in that creative process,
yeah.
um, to the creativity to come through. And then if you need to refine and you need to like better whatever you're working on, then that's like another step in the process versus just trying to do it all at one time.
Yeah. One of the other things that I think can really impact here is pressure. Some of us do our best thinking under a deadline, but also I think pressure creates stress. And sometimes there absolutely is positive stress because stress can motivate us to,
Yeah.
get something over the finish line. But oftentimes that line between positive stress and negative stress gets really blurry and we step over the line and maybe like zoom way past the line at over 270 miles per hour.
If
Without
I'm just
even
throwing some numbers out.
without even realizing it. And that can absolutely be stress can be a killer of
Yeah.
creativity because you just are like I talked about in the beginning, like you just start to think about all of the like reasons that something won't work or that you can't. You
Yeah.
go into that kind of like fear-based thinking,
Yeah.
which is again like science, right? That's like what our bodies do in order to help us identify and minimize threats. And so if your stress is triggered, you're searching for threats and you kind of get in that mode. So, like figuring out how to frame your perspective and balance pressure, or at least notice when you feel like pressure is starting to, you're creeping
Yeah.
across that border of like positive stress and negative stress, is a good time to take a break and walk away.
Well, and I even think in those moments, like even like I know with my career, a lot of times there's high pressure moments, yet you still need to have creative problem solving and you still need to come at it with like positive attitude and all these
Yeah.
things. What I have found really works for me in those moments, like where I feel all eyes are on me and like expecting a response in the moment, I actually ask like, can I have a few minutes to sit with this and come back? Like I will put a deadline on it. Like, can you give me an hour? Or can you give me 2 hours? Um, because that's like how I can remove myself from that stressful moment and kind of put my mind in a space where I can really think through something and
Yeah.
then come back and let us like happy to discuss. But I do feel like the in those pressure moments, like being able to identify those things that make you feel that way so that you can step back. And I know in some things like it's not possible, but if you do have that as an option, I think it's a great way to kind of find balance in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. I think one of the other things that can really cause creative burnout is if you're having too much routine and you're not getting enough novelty or inspiration. And this is part of why they say like taking time to go out and be in nature brings creativity because you're like getting to experience the world around you instead of the world that you're creating and controlling. But I do think that you need novel and new in order to feed your creativity because it's like if you think about like the path your brain is on, if you're in this routine where you always know what to expect, then that's kind of the motion or the energy or the cycle that your brain gets stuck in.
Yeah.
And so you're not in that mode of taking in information that's new and figuring out what you're going to do with that or what that might mean or even being in that place of question. You're instead on autopilot
Right.
going, okay, I know exactly what's happening. For me, I think about it kind of similarly to, um, at work. I would often think about or talk about that mode that you get in where like your calendar is controlling your day, and then all of a sudden you have a day with like no meetings, and you get to do the 50 billion things on your to do list, but you kind of get stuck and you don't know what to do because you've been like reacting to all the things
Yeah.
flying at you. And all of a sudden you have to switch from reactive mode to you're the one driving what you do. It's really hard to
Yeah.
switch modes. And I think about this kind of the same way. Like you're just on autopilot, like running along with life. You're in your routine. Everything's happy. You're driving to wherever you're driving without even thinking about how you got there. Like you're not paying attention to the
Right.
things around you, even though there's stuff around you all the time. You're just not paying attention to all of it because you're on autopilot. And then you start getting novel things in where you don't necessarily know what to expect. So you have to pay attention, and that
Yeah.
feeds your creativity. You start noticing the world around you.
Which I think is also very different from like those shower thoughts, because I do think that is your body is still in motion. It is doing something, but it's your brain doesn't have to be super active in that process. I call them laundry thoughts. I seem to have my aha moments when I do laundry. I
Yeah.
don't
I
know
mean,
why.
if I let my mind wander too much in the shower, I like wash my hair 3 times or 0 times. I don't know.
I don't know until I move the shampoo bottle.
Like, did I already do this? Did I not do this? Did I forget something? I'm like, autopilot didn't work for me.
Right. But the reason I say that is because when I saw the routine
Yeah.
as one of those things, I was like, oh, that's interesting. But then whenever like I read further into it, it's more about like what you are like subjecting yourself to. Like, what is that
Yeah.
stuff that you're taking in? What is the environment that you're putting yourself in to have those moments of creativity to be sparked versus creating that white space to be able to be creative. Two very different things, which I just wanted to call out because I found this idea of a routine very interesting as a potential blocker.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I do think that routines aren't bad. Routines are important.
No.
They're
Yeah,
very,
absolutely.
it's important. But I myself struggle because, as we've discussed, I'm a complete dichotomy. I both love routine because I don't love to be surprised and hate routine because I don't like to be bored. It's like I need a routine, but I also fight against a routine. And I need novel, but I need the novel to be defined. I am that person that will put something on my calendar so that I have time to do it. And then I will find literally everything else I need to be doing except for that thing because I don't want to do what my calendar told me to do, even though I'm the one that put it there.
Who's really in charge here? Me or me?
Yeah, I don't even like to boss myself I mean, I like to boss myself around. I don't even like to listen to myself when I boss myself around. I'm my own person.
That's right. Well, so I do think that there are lots of I mean, we'd like probably just touched the tip of the iceberg with
Yeah.
some of those things, like, but I think what's more like, you have to identify it, right? First you have to identify that you are in this place that is causing you to not feel a flow of creativity, and if you can identify like where that's coming from, you can potentially start putting some solutions in place. But there's also tools and strategies that people can use to help
Yeah.
avoid getting in that space.
And I just want to say one more thing before we start talking about the few tools and tips that we have. I think it is really important to set your intention to be aware of when you get stuck, but also to be really kind to yourself and acknowledging that everybody gets stuck.
Right.
So it's not a bad thing. We're not going to judge ourselves. It's just part of our rhythm. So sometimes we all get stuck. And when we can be kind enough to ourselves to acknowledge that and then give ourselves the space to do what we need to do to get unstuck without judgment or frustration with ourselves, then you just kind of get right back into it much faster.
Yeah. And it's part of the human condition, right? Like that it like are like you've talked about the neuroscience behind it, the things that our mind craves and looks for routine. Like it's very easy to fall into those things, and then like there's, impacts to those, but it's like having that awareness and being kind to yourself to allow to move through it a little faster.
Yeah, as an example, we were working on merch. We have merch, by the way, guys. We've got merch. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. We have some really awesome t shirts. One of them is my favorite saying about neuroscience. We've got some mugs. We've got some decals, all kinds of cool stuff, a tea towel, more merch coming, but you can check it out at the link flashing up on your screen. But as we were working through, because we design all of that merch ourselves, as we were working through that, I actually was working on the shirt that is one of Chris's quotes, ask me about my Google face. And I was like, what kind of imagery do I need with this? And I was just like, I had been working on this stuff. And I just have to say, like, the tools that we use for design, some of them are intuitive and some of them are really unintuitive and very frustrating. I definitely was in that moment of being really frustrated because it was unintuitive and I didn't take the time to sit down and spend all the hours learning how to do it. I learned by like hands on, but it was really frustrating trying to figure it out because it was not obvious, which I don't think things should be designed that way. So, just y'all know if you are creative people that use digital design software, you know exactly what software I'm talking about. So, I was talking to Chris. Chris, I think you might even have been like in the middle of some stuff, but like I'm back and forth with you. And I'm like, I don't even know like what kind of icon or imagery can I use with this? And it was just so obvious for you. You came up with it so quickly. Um, and I was just like, "Oh, well, that makes total sense." And I don't know why I just spent like 45 minutes on all of the wrong things that didn't make any sense at all.
Meanwhile, I thought like you were trying to be like novel with the idea that you were going with. So I was like, all right, well, that's
You're like,
fresh.
"What about
That's
a
new. That's different.
computer?" Like, that's, ask me about my Google face. What about a computer? And I was like a monitor. And I was like, oh, that's the most obvious, best answer. And there it was. It was done like in a just a split second. But
So go
what's
check
great
out
is,
the t-shirt.
yeah, go check out the t-shirt. It's great. It looks great. But I think what's great is like using that opportunity to be able to go, okay, I'm like getting frustrated by different things. I'm like limiting my ability to just think creatively. And I want to get this done at the same time. And so, like, let me reach out to a friend. And all of a sudden, it became very obvious.
Which is a tool and strategy to break through. Sometimes you have to reach out to others and bring them along on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I do one of my working style really is I work best collaboratively as an expressive, being able to talk out loud, think out loud. So, I enjoy that the most, but it's also like just I'm able to do my best work when
Yeah.
I can be collaboratively working with somebody else. And so that for me was a way to kind of help with the brainstorming is going back and forth. And I know sometimes I'll send you stuff and I'll be like, which of these three options do you like? And it's not even until I hit send that I have a preference. And then it's like, well, why would I ask you a question that I already have an answer to? Why didn't until I asked you?
Yeah, but maybe that's part of like the processing of it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're now moving out of your creative processing mind of creating it, and now
Yeah.
the like task of taking screenshots, putting it in a text message, sending, like you're now using a different part of your brain. And so all of a sudden you're able to like do make that switch.
That executive processing network part of your brain where you start to refine.
Exactly.
So you go from like free flowing, anything goes into critical thinking refinement. Yeah. Did you actually know that it has been debunked that the right side of the brain is creative thinking and the left side of the brain is,
Problem solving,
I hesitate to say problem solving because I think
analytic.
problem solving requires creative thinking.
Yeah. But I think
But yeah,
I think that's why it was debunked, right? Like they found that it takes the whole brain to make it happen.
yeah. Now maybe there's like the analytic versus the abstract. Um, but maybe this is why I get when I think about creativity and creative thinking, I don't think about things that are orderly or put where they belong or any of that because it's like we've juxtaposed, analytic and that abstract thinking, and we assign abstract thinking to creativity,
Yeah.
whereas like creativity actually comes from a combination of all of that. It's really interesting. We were reading an article from UPenn. We'll include the link in the description, but it was a really good article, and it was talking about, like, of course, I think it was a really good article. It's talking about the brain science, the neuroscience behind creativity and how to train your brain for innovative thinking. But it really talked about understanding creativity from a scientific perspective and what all the different parts in your brain that go into creative thinking. And that's where we learned that it's not just the right side of your brain that goes into creative thinking. That has been debunked. So that was really, really interesting.
So now we have to unlearn that, and we have
Yeah.
to embrace this new way of thinking,
Yeah, absolutely.
which I do think, like, when I will say, like, I have never historically thought of myself as like the creative type as far as like, being able to sketch a great sketch or paint a beautiful picture. Like I just have, for some reason, like that, what I see in my brain I can't quite make come to life on a piece of paper. But I will say, like, the thing that I liked about this article is it kind of brings this idea of like we all have this capacity to think creatively, and it isn't just about this idea of what like you're not producing just a piece of artwork. Like it's creative thinking goes into many aspects of our lives. And so I appreciate that as some, like, I'm trying to lean more into my fine art skills. As we have gone on this journey, we are both having the opportunity to, you know, digital creators. You've done a lot of great stuff with the merch. Like it has really, I think, inspired us to go beyond our comfort zones and see what other things we can do.
Well, and I think I am a firm believer that everyone needs to be exercising some sort of creative outlet. That's a big part of finding peace, finding joy. Like as humans, we crave in various ways to like have that creative release.
Yeah,
And um I think it's really, really important for everyone. Everybody finds it in different ways, but how we have late like creativity in the past just belonging to the arts,
yeah,
I think, is misinformed. But we all need it. I do think it is a part of self-care. And in order to really feel fulfilled, not only do you have to make time for it, but you have to set yourself up
right.
for having that sort of capacity and space. I used to think that finding balance in life was just about finding more time, but you actually cannot create more time. I don't know if you knew that
It's
or
not a
not.
thing. It's
Can't
really
do it.
not.
And so what I realized is that all this time that I was searching for balance, I wasn't actually searching for balance. I was just searching for some secret magic way to get more time in the day so I could like do it all without being exhausted.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's not about using every single second of the day because even if you were to figure out how to get more time in the day, your brain can't keep running at
Right.
270 miles per hour nonstop. Like you have to give it white space. And we need that for creativity and we need creativity to be happy.
Yep. Well, and some ways of like creating that white space could be, taking a walk, doing some cooking, doing chores.
I
Like
won't be cooking.
that won't be what you subscribe to. But I think it's one of those things that you start to allow yourself to that white space allows your brain to wander a little bit, allows you to move into a space of less constraint and starts allowing those different neurons to fire differently, the way you look at the world, the way you look at problems. It all begins to like shift a little bit because you're not hyper focused on the one thing.
Yes, this UPenn article talked about the default mode network, which is the parts of your brain that get engaged while you are just sort of in autopilot or default mode. So if you think about like daydreaming or kind of imagination wandering or those kinds of things, your brain is actually in default mode, using the default mode network parts of your brain in order to like create all of that thinking. And that is often when we let our mind get into default mode network, that is often when we are able to kind of find those little side quest paths that take us into creative thinking
Yeah.
versus like being so in control of the direction of where our thoughts are. And if you think about that, like creativity is thinking beyond what you like the direction or the path that you already think you need to go down
Right.
sometimes. And I think about creativity as being the opposite of control in some ways. You kind of have to let go of your mind and let it go in different places in order to enable that creative thought. So you've got to get out of the place where you're in the conductor seat. um,
It's a great way of
and
putting it.
and just like move over and let the other parts of your brain start taking you on a journey.
Yeah, there's some definitions of creativity, like creative thought, creative ideas, like that's defined around like bringing something new and novel, like an unexperienced, envisioned thing to life. And I don't know if necessarily I 100% subscribe to that, but I do think there is a like for everything that you just said, whenever we allow our brains to find those paths, like it's whenever we are trying to problem solve, whenever we're trying to create something, generally we're going down the paths that we were taught or trained. Whenever we move into those more unconstrained areas, those paths begin to broaden a little bit. That's where those innovative, I think, ideas and concepts can start to take shape. Because it's just a little bit more unconstrained. Like you said, you're not in the conductor seat. Like you're allowing that
Yeah.
creative flow to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being able to switch back and forth is what's really important because then you
Right.
take the ideas and then you have to refine them and use your problem solving skills to figure out how to get them to a good place. So, really interesting. I also think there are some things you can physically do in order to set yourself up for
Yeah.
creativity. So, another random fact here for you and the science behind creativity. Did you know that 50% of the brain's dry weight is made up of fat?
No, I did not know that.
Like when they talk about fatty acids, they
Uh
talk
huh.
about DHAs and ARAs and AHA, I don't know, all of that kind of stuff, Like healthy fats are not just good for your hair and your nails, they're really important for your brain. And because 50% of your brain's dry weight is made up of fat. And so if you have yourself on like a severe no fat diet, that can actually lead to your neurons eating themselves and it causes your brain to shrink.
Interesting.
and you just can't, like, you don't have enough in there to be able to think. So, creative power needs healthy fats to operate. So, that's really important. We did an episode on hydration and drinking water. And one of the things that we learned doing research for that podcast was that you actually do like limit your creative thinking and your creative ability when you are dehydrated or not drinking enough water. So, eating good, healthy fats, eat it like drinking water and staying hydrated are things that you can physically do. Getting enough sleep, you cannot like create more creative power by just pulling all nighters. When you wake up in the middle of the night, totally stressed about something, I have had to learn to take those thoughts and put them in a box to open up later because I am not going to do my best thinking at 3 a.m. So it's not my most creative time. So getting enough sleep so that your brain can function. We talked a little bit about oxygen and needing to be able
Deep
to
breaths.
breathe. So, doing some deep breathing, making sure that you're not holding your breath. The more stressed you get, the more you tend to hold your breath or not breathe as deeply. So, those are some things that you can physically do to help, get yourself out of a creative rut if you
Yeah.
feel like you're having a little creative block. And I think that's part of why, like, getting up and moving, it distracts you so that you return to like reduce the stress, return to normal breathing. You're going for a walk, you have to take
Yeah.
more oxygen in. I think those are part of the reasons that those kinds of things promote creativity. So, those are some physical things
Yep.
you can do. What other things can you do, Chris, to help get yourself unstuck?
Yeah, I think there's depending on the situation you're in, you may feel out of your depth. So there's too much to like the problem feels too big to get your arms around, in which case the research shows break it down into manageable pieces. So whenever we feel like we can get our arms around something, it allows us the opportunity to really work through it and make some traction versus just seeing this huge problem and just feeling overwhelmed. Again, moving into a brain space that doesn't really allow us to shift into how do we solve this problem if we're too busy being overwhelmed by the problem. So really breaking things down and trying to accomplish small tasks that ultimately will lead to that larger goal.
Yeah.
Now, if you are someone like me, you may need to write those things down so you don't forget what needs to still be accomplished. Because sometimes in the process of trying to achieve that larger goal, I forget some of the smaller details. And so keep a list of the things that need to get done and then just start working through that list of how to accomplish it. So that way you don't wake up at 3 a.m. with those thoughts and have to find that box to put them in.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that there's something to just listening to your own natural rhythm. And this is something that I've given myself the space this last, 5 months to be able to do. But, what I've noticed is like there will be times where I really do get into the right brain space to be creative. And so I try and make the space to honor that creative flow
Yeah.
and then kind of go, okay, like, is this the moment for just because like, instead of trying to overschedule my creativity or my creative work that needs to be done, kind of listening to more of the natural rhythm of my body and going, creating a environment where I can take advantage of when my brain is ready
Yeah.
versus trying to make my brain be ready at the time that's most convenient for me. And you can't always do that because sometimes you have deadlines or commitments that you need to
Right.
meet, or, you can't always be unscheduled as much as I would love to be untethered from time itself. I have to sort of keep myself slightly tethered. So I do think all these other things that we're talking about are good ways to prepare yourself so that you can schedule it. But sometimes it's good to just kind of go with the flow and listen to the rhythm of what's going on
Yeah.
in your own. But I mean, for me, like even hormones come into play in when I can be creative and the most creative and when I'm struggling with that. And I do think getting out, changing your environment taking a walk, going and taking pictures of the birds and the sunset and the, for me, those are some things. Talking to somebody, giving yourself the opportunity to check out, all of those are things that can
Yeah.
help.
It's really interesting, the idea about that rhythm, because there's also research that shows by consuming like good content can really help like spark those moments of inspiration, and
Yeah.
being able to realize like to feel those feelings like, oh, I'm feeling inspired and what to do with them, because it could come from reading a book that you really enjoy, it could be listening to a podcast, watching a great movie, maybe watching an episode of Bob's Burgers. I don't know. Just something that you begin to feel that spark and then you kind of go with that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that saying, if you put good stuff in, good stuff will come out, but you put garbage in, you'll get garbage out. So it's like understanding that and making sure that you're giving yourself those opportunities to also be inspired
Yeah,
purposefully.
absolutely. We talked last week about museums and like specifically art museums and how we both feel kind of inspired when we sit near other people's creative work and making the space to go do that and participate in that and get yourself inspired. I think previously I have gone to museums and gone, how do I get the most out of this? And I like don't leave any space for creativity. And I'm just on a mission. I'm on a path. I'm like, let's do this and this and this and this. I want to get it all in. And like that may not be the best way to take advantage of creative inspiration by overscheduling
Yeah.
yourself and trying to do the most. So just trying to think about that and give yourself the space, the white space to just um, feel inspired and then allow yourself to take that wherever it may go.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love just sitting in the middle of somebody else's creative work and going, okay, like what feelings does this bring up for me? What thoughts does it bring up for me? This is a great place to brainstorm or um, do a little journaling.
Right. Well, and if you know that about yourself, like the things that like inspire you or the things that even maybe stress you out and don't allow you to be in that space, like be purposeful about scheduling your time to allow for those things. So like
Yeah.
if you know you need a schedule, you appreciate like having an agenda, that's great. Like allow that, but be sure to build into that time that opportunity for a little bit of, unmanaged time to sit and be inspired by something, which could just be like a hold on the calendar, right? Like, okay, Saturday morning I don't have anything planned, so I'm gonna go for a walk, I'm going to go to a museum, I'm just be purposeful about it, because I do know that some people really do like a strict schedule to follow, which is totally fine. Like that is totally a good thing if that
Yeah.
is what you need, but it's also sometimes things have to be scheduled to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So when none of that works, when-
When none of that
uh,
works.
one of the best things you can do is recognize when you need to step away, take a rest, like listen to that rhythm of your body. And I know
Yeah.
this is something that I did while we were working on our website that we will be publishing soon. So stay tuned. But we had this really great session together and then like we'd been going at it for just too many hours and I was
Yeah.
starting to feel myself get like distracted by all of the other thoughts that were coming into my head. I've been sitting stillish. I'd been sitting in the same chair in front of a screen for too long
Yeah.
and I was not feeling fresh anymore. I was feeling like it was hard for me to stay focused and I was listening to that and going, "Okay, I need to be done with this and I need to pick it back up now." It's been 2 weeks, a week and a half, something, and I
I
haven't
think it's
picked it
been like
back
a
up
week.
yet. Um, so got to get back to it. I did some other things like merch instead of the thing that I was supposed to do because nothing inspires me more to get work done than avoiding another task that I'm supposed to be doing. So
Where else can I put my time and attention?
I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I would love to understand more about myself.
But you know what's really interesting about that, like going through that process with you? You and I have known each other for many, many years.
Mm,
And it is now that you and I are like sitting and creating things together, whether it's, creating outlines for the podcast, whether it's in the website, whatever it may be. I'm beginning to learn that about you. Like if we are sitting in one space for too long, like we need the breaks,
We
we
gotta
need
move.
to step away because we both
Yeah.
need that. Like we both get hyper focused on things, and then whenever something doesn't work exactly how we think it should, or we're finding a tool frustrating, then all of the intrusive thoughts enter, and then our creative flow is then fractured.
Yeah, you're getting too fixated. You've fallen to the perfectionism, and
Right.
perfectionism is the ultimate like destroyer of creativity. While also, I don't know, I have to do some more thinking about how that plays into creativity. Like when I had to create my own little sun diagram because the was not symmetrical, and I like things to be symmetrical. Asymmetry is a challenge for me.
And it's our merch, so we get to do what we want to do with it. But no, I
But
think that's a perfect example of like you
yeah.
knowing when your thoughts were in the right place to be able to tackle that versus like, okay, I need to
Okay,
step
now it's
away.
too much. This is getting unfun. I need to take a break, or I'd love to bang it all out and get it done, but I'm not going to do my best work anymore. I need to like put a pin in this and come back to it later. And sometimes I just have to ride that wave of when my body is prepared for
Right.
creativity and when it's not. But I think it's really important to balance that with when you're just trying to avoid getting something done,
Correct.
because I also am really good at finding other things to do so that I don't have to do the
Yeah.
thing that I know I need to do.
Yeah. I think here it's like knowing that you're no longer in a space where you are being productive. And if anything, it's
Yeah.
probably hurting you or hurting whatever output you're working towards. And that can go for anything that you're doing from a creative perspective. And continuing to like hit your head on a wall, that's not going to move anyone forward in a great way. So,
Yeah.
press pause, walk away, go focus on something else, go for a walk, go get a coffee, whatever. Go distract your mind for a little bit
Do
when
some
you've,
cozy gaming.
yeah, and then go back to it. Like, I think that's my big thing here.
Yeah.
And whenever I am in, whether it's I'm working on something independently or I'm with a group of people and we're trying to do something, whenever I start to see and feel this, what I will call like hamster wheel, like it just feels like we're running and running and running, but we're not making any progress. That's when I'm like, okay, let's take a break. Let's go get lunch. Let's come back at this tomorrow. I do a lot of writing for my job. And so, like, having, like, okay, I no longer am in the brain space where I can do this right now. I'll have to come back to it. So I think just being aware of those things, knowing when it's the right time to walk away, and walking away isn't a bad thing. It's allowing you to reset. It's allowing you
Yeah.
to be refreshed and then come back at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that, we just have to remember that creative flow is not constant. It ebbs and it flows. and um,
That's why it's called
um
creative flow.
and so, while I said perfectionism is one of the big killers of creativity, stress is absolutely a predator of creativity. And the more that you try and pressure yourself into being creative, or put all this pressure on yourself to be creative
Yeah.
and create this stress, you're going to kill all of that creativity. And
Yeah.
so just giving yourself grace and like going with the flow and creating space for creativity, but also creating space to be able to walk away from that, I think is really important. So if you're feeling like you just can't, meet yourself in that creative space that you're looking for, whether it's with writing or with problem solving or a painting or whatever it is that you're focused on, maybe it's because you're just too focused. You're putting
Yeah.
too much stress on it,
Yeah.
and you just need to like step back, step away, do some of these tactics, try some of these tactics that we've talked about. But just give yourself the space and I love a good brainstorm. Brainstorming is like fun for me as an expressive. And I put a box around it and I say, okay, like this is brainstorming time. So like my only goal here is just to throw a million ideas onto the page. It's not to decide which idea is the best idea. So that gives me the permission to not have to be right and to not have to come out of it with an answer,
Yeah.
but just to like turn off all of that kind of thinking in my brain and go into like any idea is a great idea.
Yep.
Because then, you build on all of the ideas. Because not every idea is a great idea. I mean,
It's
come on,
very
there's
true.
a lot of dumb ideas, but the dumb ideas inspire great ideas
Correct.
usually, right?
You got to get them out of your head because they still take up space. Like
As an expressive, of course, I
yes,
believe that. Our analytic producer may may feel differently. I don't know,
may
but
not agree with us there.
I love a good brainstorm.
Uh, but look, we have tried to fit this very large topic into a podcast episode, and I know that in many areas we just like hit the tip of the iceberg. And so I want to ask all of you who are listening, what are your thoughts on this? Like, how do you find inspiration? What do you do whenever you feel like you're in a space of your creative flow has been interrupted? Like, what do you do? What are some mechanisms you have in place? You can share with us depending on the platform that you're listening to us on. You can throw a comment in the comments. You can always reach out to us via email at chrisjeninthemorning@gmail.com, or you can leave a voicemail or text us at 940-278-8129.
Yeah, totally crowdsourcing these answers because we
Yes,
definitely always are wanting to get better, and we do not have all the answers. So
absolutely not.
we would love to know what you do. Please share with us. We would love some hot tips. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. Of course, we're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. All of the places. So at Chris and Jen ITM. ITM stands for in the morning. You can find us. So follow, like, subscribe, comment. That helps us get more visibility. So we absolutely appreciate that. And until next time, be kind to one another and make it a really great week.
Bye, everyone.